Your business rates have been improved without the need to make it an independent country. That's already happened. There's an awful lot of other things that could happen without all the disruption of having to become a separate country. You don't actually know what currency you can use. You're not going to get this currency. You're not going to happen. You won't do it. You can't make them do it. You probably end up using sterling. Oh, yes! You'll have problems if you go down to London and Scottish banknotes. Because the folk still happy. And it will come back because they will see us as a foreign country. You may find that any stuff that you can get shipped up to a supplier in England
excuse me, right?
What? Is this a point of order?
Yes. No, he's out of order. The Irish Republic is not seen as a foreign country.
Well, I didn't hear him say it was a foreign country. Did you?
Yes. No, I did. If we become independent, then England is a foreign country from us, so we are a foreign country. No, we're not. It means you're a different country. Same as Australia, Canada, USA, and France, and everywhere else. Countries treated differently. You take somebody in Dover, they can phone here cheaper than they can phone Calais. They can see Calais out the window. Is that going to carry on? The white paper says it's going to cost us the same to phone London as it does to phone Iowa. No guarantee the phone calls on the way will stay the same.
Okay. Right, we were moving towards a more civilized conversation. Let's keep it that way, folks. Okay, that's the next question. Almost follows on from that, and it's the obvious one that has been in the news a lot, and it's Ruth. I don't know which Ruth. There may be 300 Ruths in the room, but so I'll just read it. People are worried about money. Will we be using the Scottish pound? Willie?
We already know that the UK Treasury spokespeople have said it won't happen. The Alex Salmond says that it would be illogical for the rest of the United Kingdom not to agree a currency union with Scotland because of transaction costs. That's their counter-argument. The problem is that why would the rest of the United Kingdom agree to stand behind an independent Scotland financially?
Thank you.
I think we should remember what Jeff said.
Right.
So,
okay, folks, we'll be here till 10 o'clock if everybody shouts out, so just let the man speak, please.
So why would the rest of the United Kingdom agree to a one-way insurance policy, where they would have to stand behind us financially, but there is no way because of our size, because we are roughly a tenth the size, that we could stand behind them financially in a time of crisis? Why would any country agree to that kind of relationship? That is why we will not have a currency union. There is a logic behind the argument that has been put forward. It is a compelling argument, and therefore we need to plan. Now, you might not believe me. I suspect you don't believe me. But do you want to tell people in September that this will definitely happen when there is a significant chance, even just a small chance? I think it's a big chance, but even if it's just a small chance that it won't. You need to tell people what the alternatives are. Because if you don't, you're actually depriving people of the knowledge that is necessary in order for them to make a mature decision. That is why Alex Salmond, and it is Alex Salmond that's leading the campaign, whether you like it or not, Alex Salmond needs to actually spell out what the alternatives would be and what the consequences would be of different currencies. For what it's worth, I actually would prefer, I probably agree with Tommy on this, I would prefer to have a separate Scottish currency. If I was the Treasurer, bizarrely, in an independent Scotland, I would want to make sure that we have a separate currency. because there would be choppy waters in which we would have to manoeuvre our way through. And in those circumstances, I would want to control all the economic levers so we could get through those choppy waters as swiftly and as easily as possible. So a separate Scottish currency would be to our advantage. But nobody's telling people what that would mean, because there would obviously be increased transaction costs for businesses. Businesses like Jeff was wanting to trade with the rest of the United Kingdom. There would be increased costs for him and many other people. So that is why, even if you don't believe me, you have got a duty, a responsibility to tell people what their responsibility. Quiet! You've got a duty to tell people, to inform people what the feasible alternatives would be and set out what the consequences would be for each of those options.
Do you want to respond, Tommy? Sorry about the microphone going back and forward.
Yeah, again, Ian, I think the question from Ruth reflects some of the issues which many people have in their minds, but you're not going to get the answer in relation to what's up for grabs on the 18th of September. The 18th of September is about whether Scotland has the right to decide those questions. Personally, an independent Scotland, when it has its first Scottish elections, not in September, not next year, but in 2016, that's when you will have the right to choose from the menu of political parties and the menu of political manifestos what type of Scotland you want, who it is you want to run Scotland. You will have the right to decide who runs Scotland, not the southeast of England, as happens just now. David said you may have a chance of an independent Scotland voting Tory. Well, for 63 years we've not voted Tory here in Scotland. I can't see us being an independent Scotland. But the point is about the currency question. The government's white paper is what they believe. That's what they think. Me, I think Scotland should have absolutely nothing to do with the Bank of England. I don't want the Bank of England to do with Scotland. I want an independent, publicly controlled Scottish bank that will control money supply, that will decide interest rates, that will decide that there is enough money available for the public works projects to build the new council houses we need, to build the hospitals and the schools and the road projects, to create the jobs. I want a Scottish currency backed by our oil, and by the way, we have got £4.2 trillion worth of oil still to be extracted on the west coast of Scotland. Never mind the north of Scotland. The west coast of Scotland. And the reason it's not been extracted so far is because it's in the shipping line of Trident. Well, when we get rid of Trident, we can extract the oil. That's the reality.
Why am I surprised Tommy brings in Trident and the oil as well? But we have got questions on that, but I'm going to pass it back to Tommy because the next question is something he's been deeply involved in, and I indicated at the beginning I've been a little bit involved in. The question is, will an independent Scotland take a stance on asylum seekers? How will they afford them, and will they limit the numbers? And if so, on what basis? Sorry, it's Sue Cumming. I don't know whether she wants to identify herself. Sue Cumming. I should have said, Sue Cumming, there she is, and she's asking, will an independent Scotland take a stance on asylum seekers? How will they afford them? And will they limit the numbers? And if so, on what basis? Just a couple of minutes, Tommy, on this, because I know it's something very close to your heart.
Well, I want to join the whole issue of asylum with immigration, because I'm someone in common with many Scots who comes from Irish stock, Italian stock. I remember the novelist William McIlvanney describing Scotland as a mongrel nation because we've got so many links to other nations. And an independent Scotland, I want us to create the jobs in the house building programme because we need houses. I want us to create jobs in the health sector and education, because we need smaller class sizes, we need shorter waiting times, we need to invest in health research. I want to create jobs in steel, in manufacturing, in shipbuilding. I want Scotland to become a country again that makes things and sells them across the world. That's what I want Scotland to do. And that means in an independent Scotland, we will be investing and creating jobs and demand in our economy. I want a Scotland that is proud to stand up and say loud and clear across the world that we offer a hand of friendship to anyone who wants to come and live and work here in Scotland, not a fist of fury. Because we need to reject the idea of narrow, nationalistic idea that you build a new Hadrian's Wall when you're in independent Scotland. I don't want to build any new walls, I want to knock down existing walls. That's what I want to do in independent Scotland. That's why we should be prepared. We should be prepared as a nation across the world. If there are people seeking asylum from rape and pillage and murder, this country should be proud, as we did to the Chileans in 1973 when they came here. We should offer them a home and we should offer them friendship.
To Fiona, Dave, do you want to take this one at all? Okay, I think it would be worth just spending a bit of time on this, Willie.
There are two different issues here. One is about immigration, one is about asylum. We need to separate the two issues, because the United Kingdom has always been a home for respite for people who are in difficulties, no matter where they are in the world. And we've got a proud reputation of doing so, and we should not run that down. That's the first thing. Second thing is, Liberal Democrats in government with the Conservatives, we managed to get rid of child detention at Dunfermline. I know something that you felt very strongly about, and so did we, and we put that to an end after years of Labour having that here in Scotland, not far away from here. So that's the second issue on asylum. Thank you. But there is an issue about immigration. I mean, as a Liberal, I tend to be more in favour of encouraging immigration. I think it's made our country, I do a lot with the Asian community in Scotland, and they're brilliant people who contribute significantly to our country. And I'm pleased that I've got an association with them and that they've chosen to come and live here. I think that's a good thing, and it's something that we should be pleased that they have chosen to come here. Anything that any family is prepared to uproot themselves from almost halfway around the world and come and live here, there's something about they've got a bit of guile, they've got a bit of energy, they're going to contribute to the nation that they come to, and that's something we need to recognise. I was disgusted that UKIP managed to get a seat in Scotland. I thought that was I think it's reflected poorly on us, and I think it's something that we shouldn't be complacent about. We need to challenge people wherever they come forward with ideas that are intolerant, anti-immigrant, anti-outsider. We need to challenge that constantly in our country. So I'm very proud, I think, of the things that I stand for, the fact that I want an open, tolerant nation, and I detect from the first round of applause this evening that perhaps you might agree with me. So that's a good thing, and I think we should find we've got common ground. The challenge, and this is where the technical challenge comes, is that you can have a common travel area within the United Kingdom, as Ireland has got with the United Kingdom, if you have roughly similar immigration policies. If we think we can have a significantly different immigration policy from the rest of the United Kingdom, that puts that common travel area under quite a bit of stress. I can't see the rest of the United Kingdom agreeing to significantly different immigration policies in Scotland, in which case you would have to probably agree to go into the Sheridan and therefore have some kind of restriction of movement of people north and south of the border. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, because I don't think that is what the SNP are proposing. But when Tommy says we're going to have completely open borders, you need to understand that would put the common travel area under considerable stress. If you want free movement within the United Kingdom, you have to have roughly the same immigration policy, not asylum policy, immigration policy as the rest of the United Kingdom. That's where the stress comes with an independent Scotland.
We're moving quite quickly through the questions. There may be other questions. We probably won't get through every one, but so I'm kind of relaxing the idea of just one person from either side of me doing it. And I think, Fiona, you have a comment to make, and David also. So.
Yes, I think it's interesting that Willie talks about people choosing to come here. I think one of the things that we have to remember is that behind Britain is the whole imperialism. How we went out there, we pillaged people's countries, we took over their countries and we used them. And then when we had far too much work here in the 1960s, when there was lots of work going, then we went to other countries and we asked people to come over here and run our buses and do our cleaning jobs for us. So it's not quite the nice picture that Willie's painting. That the reason that a lot of people came into this country in the first place was because we had caused wars all over the world. I mean, all you have to look, anywhere across the world you look, in Israel and Palestine, Iraq, Afghanistan, who's behind it? There we are, Britain, we've been carrying the banner somewhere, and we've caused the migration of people from their countries where they actually want to be living, actually, in peace, with an education system like they had in Iraq before we went and stuck our nose in. They had a water system, they had electricity, they had education. Women didn't need to, were allowed to have an education system. All of that has gone. So yes, we should have open borders because we have a duty to look after these people that we rent lives of all over the world. Willie also said an interesting word. He says, you know, we have to have a tolerant country. Well, I don't believe in tolerance because tolerance means you don't like something. It's something that you put up with. It's something you don't really care for, isn't it, tolerance? No, I want acceptance. I want people to be welcome. That we've got an ageing population in this country. We need people to come here and help us. That is a fact. If we get an independent Scotland, if we get the yes vote, if we manage to nationalise our oil, gas, our electricity, we will have money, we will be able to offer people jobs, we will be able to offer people stability, we will be able to look after our ageing population. So I say yes. Open the borders, welcome people here, welcome refugees, welcome immigrants.
Most of what I was going to say has actually already been said. The common travel area starts a bit technical and boring, but it is important. It's going to make a difference. I just find it hard to see that simply moving the seat of government up from London to Edinburgh is going to so transform everything to this. House of Lords. It is so good. Why hasn't it happened already?
We're not discussing the House of Lords. There's not a question on that. There's one or two questions that are directed to Willie Rennie, and one of the more polite ones, I think, comes from Mel Clark. And Mel says, but I think, you know, this is to be given to the panel generally, but first of all, because Willie is specifically asked, this question from Mel Clark. Mel, in the front row, so you can steer him out. Okay. If Willie Rennie wishes nuclear disarmament, and I may say I've lobbied Willie on nuclear disarmament when he was an MP, how will he achieve it by voting no?
That's an interesting question. Can I actually first say how you would achieve it by voting yes? Because I assume everybody here thinks that we will further the cause of nuclear disarmament by voting yes. I'm sure that's an assumption. But the reality is all you're doing is moving nuclear weapons south of the border. They will be moved elsewhere. It does not make the world one little bit safer. I suspect, somebody said, it'll make Scotland a bit safer. I suspect if a bomb was to go off in Barrow, that Glasgow might be affected as well, that even Sheridan might be affected by a nuclear bomb going off in Barrow, or anywhere in the United Kingdom, or anywhere in this part of the world. The idea that we're making the world safer by simply shifting nuclear weapons out the border. Now, there's a legitimate argument, as Tommy has made, that you could save some money. You could save some money. That's certainly true. You could say it's no longer to be asked, we're not going to pay for it. But that is not an argument for nuclear disarmament. So how do we make sure that we try and further the cause of nuclear disarmament as part of the United Kingdom? Now, I would argue that we're in a much better position to do so because we are part of the United Kingdom. We can here maintain our influence over those nuclear weapons, maintain our influence over the disarmament programme. For everybody in this room, you can go and lobby Westminster and say, let's see if we can get rid of nuclear weapons. Please make the decision now to advance the cause. After independence, there will be little point, there will be no point in going to Westminster to make that case, because they will not need to listen to us anymore. So that's why I believe we're in a much better position to influence the cause of nuclear disarmament across the globe. Something I'm not a unilateralist, I'm a multilateralist, but I do believe in nuclear disarmament. I want to get rid of them if we possibly can. But the idea that an independent Scotland would further that cause is simply naive.
Okay, I'll give Tommy a chance to respond to that.
I think it is important just to establish why it is we want to get rid of nuclear weapons. In 1996, the International Court of Justice, which is the world's court for the world's countries, gathered to discuss nuclear weapons. They voted to declare nuclear weapons were illegal. Now, they said they were illegal because under the Geneva Convention, the rules of war, the rules of engagement, normally what happens is one army attacks another army. You don't attack civilians. Combatants attack other combatants. Therefore, you're supposed to use weapons during conflicts which kill opposing armies. You don't use weapons that kill civilians. Nuclear weapons are the most indiscriminate weapons ever created. They kill everyone. That's why they kill everyone and everything. That's why they have been declared illegal and immoral. And by the way, it's not the use of them that's been declared illegal and immoral, it's the possession of them. Because what we've got is a first strike nuclear weapon. We've not got a defensive nuclear weapon, we've got a first strike nuclear weapon. That means we're going to kill somebody else first. Brothers and sisters, I don't want us to kill any other country first. I want rid of nuclear weapons. And when Willie suggests that voting yes will not advance that cause, he's quite simply misleading you. He is misleading you. Because what we're going to do when we vote yes for independence is we're going to force the Ministry of Defence to find somewhere else to put those nuclear weapons. They've already looked at Portsmouth and decided too much collateral damage. We can't put them there. Sorry for the claim, by the way, but I can't have them at Portsmouth. I don't want them. I've got to say, I don't want them in Portsmouth. I don't want them in Portsmouth. I want rid of them. We're going to force the MOD to decommission nuclear weapons by getting rid of them from Scotland. The only place that I would suggest that we should store the nuclear weapons is under the Houses of Parliament. That's what we should do.
There's a brave man on my right who wants to respond to that. Good luck, Dave.
Thank you. I think it was a luck. Ask yourselves how many people have been killed by weapons in the last year, the last 10 years, the last 20 years, the last 50 years. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of folk. Ask yourself how many of them were killed by nuclear weapons. Answer 0. Answer 0. How many have been killed by the accidents compared with the numbers being killed by AK? It's not nuclear weapons you want, it's actually the other kind. Because they
You're right, your point,
right, thank you. 100 years ago, as we've been reminded, the World War started. 25 years after that, another World War started. 25 years after that, I was a schoolboy. And I can remember enough about 1964 in Cuba, which was a year or two before that, to know that it was widely assumed, the more before, that there would be another world war, and there hasn't been one. And ask yourselves why.
What's Iraq? What's Afghanistan?
They are not world wars on the scale. One of the reasons we haven't had a mega war is
Okay, thank you. We're switching from nuclear weapons to a question on employment and contracts of employment. And Kirsty Alexander has this question. Kirsty Alexander is standing towards the back. And her question is, does the panel recognise that temporary and/or 0 hours contracts contribute to inequality and work poverty? Do you think an autonomous Scotland could address this better than the UK government's? If yes, why? If no, why not? So that's for the whole panel, but Fiona, I'm going to ask to speak first to that.
The answer is yes. That's the answer in short. 0 hours contracts are absolutely despicable. It's the modern day equivalent of standing at the factory gate. So it's absolutely shocking. We, as a union, the PCS union, have already got a guarantee from Scottish Government not to have 0 hours contracts within the Scottish Government employees. We've also got a guarantee of no compulsory redundancy, and they've also told us that they'll give every person that works for Scottish Government a living wage. Now, John Swinney has already said he wants to extend that, and so I think that's why the answer is yes. But I would go further than that. I would say it's not enough to have a living wage. I don't think it's enough for people to have a wage that they just exist on. They should have a lot more than that. So although the living wage is maybe the step that they were fighting towards at the moment, it's certainly something that we need to expand on. People need more than just to exist, and it's absolutely disgraceful that what's been happening to some people who are currently in 0 hours contracts, who they're just waiting at home for a call. They get no holiday pay. It's really a way of subsidising cheap labour by unscrupulous employers. So why would any country support that?
I'm not happy about them. I'm not happy about them at all. One of my kids is on a 0 hours contract, and it is not good. I'm not sure what she'd be doing if it didn't exist. That's the problem. It's always dangerous just to abolish something, just to make it illegal, because very often someone else pops up in its place, and it's always an improvement. You have to be careful about it. That's all I'm saying. We should be working towards fixing it. We should be working towards fixing it at every level, UK level, Scottish level, council level. Fife councils do things to try and improve employment prospects in Fife. And it's good that they're doing it. We have no argument with them doing it. But it's not as simple as you might think.
Folks, I think we've just got to be clear here. In an independent Scotland, we have to take decisions which are about giving dignity to people in employment. Now that dignity comes with an employment contract, a legally enforceable employment contract that gives protection to workers. I said earlier about us looking across the water. They don't have 0 hours contracts in Finland and Sweden and Denmark. Why do we have 0 hours contracts here in Britain? Because we have employers who think we are an easy touch. They can exploit us as much as they want. They can get us all fighting among each other for the crumbs off the table. I'm fed up with us fighting over the crumbs, brothers and sisters. I think it's about time we had the bloody bakery. That's what an independent Scotland is all about. And that's why I would hope even the likes of David and Willie here tonight, they're here as opponents of an independent Scotland. The truth is, in an independent Scotland, when it comes to 2 years from now and we're electing governments on political programmes, you will find there will be a political consensus in Scotland that abolishes them. That's the reality of it. That's why an independent Scotland will be positive for working class people. We have to emphasise time and time again, giving good quality standard wages to people as of right isn't just a good idea in theory. It's a good idea in reality as well. The brother down there talked about should small businesses be frightened about being disadvantaged in independent Scotland? Not at all. 1,500 small businesses are part of Yes Scotland for small businesses. Yes Scotland. 1,500. Why? Because see, in an independent Scotland, when there are better wages, more spending power, small businesses stand to gain, not lose out, because there's more spending power in the economy. It's a win-win situation. I have to ask you this. Tesco's, Morrison's, Asda, why do we continue as a state to subsidise multi-billion pound corporations by allowing them to pay poverty pay? Because what happens, think about it. Think about this for a moment. All of those retail workers that I've talked about, the retail sector is one of the lowest paid sectors in the whole of Scotland. What happens? Those workers claim housing benefit. Those workers claim working families tax credit. Those workers are forced to claim benefit. Why? Because their wages are too damn low, they can't afford their rents. That's the reality. So Fiona in the white paper talks about a living wage, not a minimum wage. That living wage should be legally enforceable so that the Asdas and the Morrisons and the Tesco's have to dig into their billions of pounds of profit and pay their workers a decent wage. That's what we should be doing.
Okay, I'm going to take two more questions, and one of them is, I think probably a very poignant one, I'm not sure. It's from Yvonne Duncan. Yvonne, you obviously know and feel very strongly about this, and the question is, and it follows on from some of the things that have been said, what will you do, I assume an independent Scotland, you mean by you, do for people with mental health problems that that want to train for the Commonwealth Games or anything in future, presumably, and are being told they cannot train if they are on ECA support group. The government states that if you're unemployed, you can train. Is that the question? Could you maybe just, I don't know whether people can hear, but just elaborate on that. We've got a microphone.
Yeah, it's the ESA Employment Support Allowance. The government's got like flyers going about saying that you can train for Commonwealth Games. And if you're on like employment support allowance or other sort of benefits, but there's certain people that aren't able to do it because they're on it's the ESA support group. So now they're turning around saying that they can't do the training for it. And I'm just wondering why that's happening.
Who is going to respond to that?
I will attempt a response to it. I think one of the things that everybody in this room will know is about the changes to welfare in this country and about how the Condemned government has brought in the stick rather than the carrot. And they're just every turn, you know, they're blaming people who are disabled, they're blaming people who are unemployed, or, you know, so at every turn they're putting barriers in people's ways, and obviously those kind of, I think the Scottish Government has already said this, that they're not going to go down that route. They would change the way that welfare runs within an independent Scotland. Certainly, if it was me and I was in charge of welfare, you would be wanting to encourage people to get a route out of their mental health issues and encourage them by, you know, participating in sport, and we know that that has very positive health benefits. So why would you do that to people? I mean, all this is about punishing the weak and the vulnerable in our society. It's just another example of the cruelty, actually, of the Condemned government that we have at the moment.
Yvonne, I don't know the particular circumstances, but if I give you my card later on, I'm quite happy to take up the issue with the DWP and see if we can... Oh, you have? Right, okay. Are we?
I'm actually one of the people that I've been at college for 8 years and suffered from mental health problems.
Right.
I'm quite nervous.
No, well, thank you for asking that question. I think it's very good of you to ask the question.
Thank you very much. The final question, and some of the questions we have had, we haven't been able to get round to, but we haven't actually talked about oil, and there are two questions. Sorry, can you two get together afterwards? Okay? There's a question from Audrey Watt. When Scotland get independence, how much in pounds will Scotland benefit from North Sea oil? And alongside that, from David Hill, Norway's sovereign oil wealth now exceeds $850 billion, safeguarding the welfare for 5 million Norwegians for the next 1,000 years. That's a bit of a speech. Does the panel have faith in future Westminster governments to spend Scotland's oil revenue wisely? I'm going to ask Dave if he has faith in the government spending Scotland's oil wisely.
I'm not convinced I've got faith in any government spending money wisely, whether it's a Westminster government, a Scottish government, a Fife Council government, or any other government. And something I was thinking about during the answers to the previous question was that we're going to have this decision in September as to whether the top level of control sits in London or in Edinburgh. But one thing we've watched over the past few years is Edinburgh taking power away from Fife. We used to have our own police force, we don't anymore. have our own fire service, we don't anymore. You try and see what happens if a planning application goes away that the Scottish Government doesn't like.
Sheridan, Dave, are you coming to the oil?
Okay, we don't know where the oil is going to go. I mean, there's a lot of it about, but just how much there is. But we don't know where it's going to go. I mean, we've no idea. They keep finding more of these things. But I will say one thing about the Norwegian Oil Fund. You can't save money and spend it at the same time. Any money that... Mortgages is borrowing. Norwegians haven't borrowed this money just for a little while. They just haven't spent it on the folk. Their taxes are very high there.
Friends, that's fine. Can I pass it over to the other side here, and then I'll ask Willie and Tommy finally to speak about this.
Do I have faith in that Westminster government is going to spend Scotland's oil revenue wisely? Well, no, I don't. I don't have faith in it at all. I think that the way that the current Westminster government is using its spending power is absolutely despicable. They have taken. I mean, it's a tax question here. They've taken our taxes and they've given them away to rich people. That's what's happened. I was asked a question the other night at another meeting, which can hardly say the word quantitative easing. Do you remember that? That's where they took all our money that they got from the oil revenue and they gave it to the banks to hand out to their friends, I think. Remember that we used to do that, and what we did was, instead of doing that, we invested it in council house and all the other things. And then that way, all the money went round and people who had spending power, they could go to the local shop and spend it. No, they're not spending the money wisely now. Why would they do it in the future? That's mad.
Final two brief speeches by Willie and Tommy.
You can't spend money and save the time at the same time. There is an idea that the oil fund will be used to maintain high levels of public spending that we currently have in Scotland at the same time as putting it into an oil fund for the future. It's not possible. Can't spend it twice. Secondly, there has been a proposal this evening to nationalise the whisky industry, to nationalise the oil industry, to clamp down on supermarkets, to stop subsidising supermarkets, clamping down on them. Nothing, none of that is in the white paper. Not one single proposition. Tommy scoffs. Point in the white paper, Tommy, where it says they're going to nationalise the whisky industry. Tell me, Tommy, you can't stand up here and tell these people they're going to have a socialist independent Scotland when there is nothing like that going to happen. You are not in charge. That is not going to happen.
Okay. We've only got a few minutes. I'm going to give it to Tommy in a minute after Willie. Let Willie speak.
I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating the turn that we are seeing in the socialist movement.
You're terrified here.
Fascinating. Could you give to the audience?
That no longer do the comrades in Newcastle, in Leeds, in Liverpool,
let him have his words, but please, Willie, bring it to a close.
I know, if I'm allowed to. I find it fascinating that Tommy no longer cares for his colleagues, his comrades in the rest of the United Kingdom. I don't like Jack, I don't care about anybody else. I'm an internationalist. I've been working with other people. I'm not socialist as well, but I've been sadly disillusioned this evening. I'm very disappointed.
Please don't be frightened by the scaremongering. Please don't be frightened by the bitter together propaganda. We have just heard about expressing concern for our brothers and sisters in England and Wales from a man who represents part of the government that in the last 12 months has forced another 900,000 people into poverty. That's what this a man who represents a party that's sitting in government, that's forced 900,000 into poverty while cutting the taxes of 13,000 billionaires. That's what that government is. And when Willie comes up here and talks about me scoffing about the things that I've talked about not being in the white paper, I told you they're not in the white paper. I said they're not in the white paper. I've told you what is in the white paper. I think the things that are in the white paper are worth voting for independence for. But they're only the start, brothers and sisters. The reason I asked Willie to stop patronising you, to stop treating you as if you're stupid. You know that you're voting on the 18th of September on whether Scotland has the right to decide who governs it in 2016. That in 2016, it won't just be what's in the white paper that's on the political menu for you to vote for. You're not voting in 2016 for the white paper, you're voting in 2016 for the political parties and the various manifestos that they will present to you. Can I promise you that there will at least be one, if not several, but by that time hopefully the Labour Party will have rediscovered its spinal column. Will be presenting to the people of Scotland the type of political programme that they abandoned 2 decades ago under Blair. We know that nationalisation of gas and electricity and the oil industry is not in the white paper. That's not what you're voting for on the 18th of September. What you're voting for the 18th of September is for the right for Scotland to actually vote for those policies in 2016. That's what you're voting for, brothers and sisters. I want to finish here by asking each and every one of you, Willie suggested it wasn't worthwhile coming along here tonight if you're already a yes supporter. I disagree, because I hope you've heard some arguments tonight that will give you renewed confidence to say, I'm actually going to speak to my neighbours, my friends and my family, because every single opinion poll shows now, brothers and sisters, it's squeaky bum time for the British establishment. That's the reality. Because what we've got here, is if every yes supporter can convince